Hello and welcome to This Is Austin. We got some spicy rumors about
There's new iPhone.
New iPhone.
New iPhone. Timmy Cook, hot alert. Tag him on Twitter. He'll be very excited to know. We're right around the corner from a brand new iPhone SE, which is gonna have 5G and a bunch of major new upgrades. Again, at that $400-ish price point.
I don't know how major those upgrades will be. Even a month ago, I would have said, who cares about 5G on the SE? But like, in just the past month, they've been rolling out a lot more 5G in a lot more areas.
Yeah.
So that is like legitimately good for a lot of people coming
And also
forward.
it's future-proof, right? Because if you think about the iPhone SE, you buy an iPhone, you know that you're gonna get software updates for years and years to come.
Minimum 7.
And the thing is, you want 5G, right? Because even though it might not be super crucial today, 4, 5, 6 years from now, you're definitely going to want to have 5G built in. And at $400, that is a nice feature. It is hardly something revolutionary. There are plenty of Android phones in that same kind of price point. It's something I think will be a pretty major upgrade.
Yeah, the big difference was when the iPhone SE2 came out, that was the most powerful phone you can get for $400, period.
It should be very, very powerful, which is no surprise, right? But on top of that, what you're getting is something that is maybe something to rejoice for a lot of people.
It's
the old design. Still
it's
around.
controversial because some people love it, some people hate it. It does look old. It's got, big chin. It's got a big forehead.
Hey, what are you talking about? Big chin, big forehead? Is that a?
I mean, it's not as big as yours, but
they ask you how you are, and you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine.
Because it is such a small, older style of design, the batteries on this kind of generation of phones, the SE, has always been lacking.
Yeah, it's definitely their lowest of the lines. I mean, even like the Mini which had a bigger screen had a better battery life than the SE. That's always
it's super thin too.
Yeah, it's as soon as this phone comes out, this is what I'm recommending. My parents are still on like the 7s.
Yep.
And I will fully be recommending they go to this because they don't want it. They're not going to learn the gestures. And if they say, okay, we're going to do everything with no buttons, not everyone's down for that. And this is like their stopgap. That is a double-edged sword of having an ecosystem where you're saying, okay, well, I'm going to support phones for 7 years. Well, that potentially means that people aren't buying phones for 7 years.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to see out of this new iPhone SE is a better camera. It's maybe not quite as strong as what you can get in like the Pixel, for example. So it would be nice to see if they can upgrade the camera a little bit.
Personally, I would be surprised if there's any type of major upgrade to the, I think it's going to be super minor at best. The people who are in the market for this phone, the camera that's on there is probably good enough for them.
Yeah, the SE camera is good enough as is right now.
It's not like a terrible camera. So I know there's no LiDAR sensor in there, but if they can get some software portrait modes in those.
Well, the SE 2020 does have portrait mode. It uses the same kind from the 10R, which uses just the single lens and just machine learning, which is honestly fine. You don't really need the extra cameras.
It was a little rough.
On top of that, there are a bunch of other new devices that we will likely see at an Apple event in the next couple of months. A lot of the rumors are pegging it at probably somewhere in the March, maybe April timeframe. So in addition to some stuff around the new iPad, which is likely going to be a complete redesign of the iPad Pro, I think there's some very exciting Mac news. If you recall back in 2019, 2020, when they first announced Apple Silicon, they're like, hey, this is a 2-year transition. Well, guess what? They've updated most Macs now, but there's still a few that are sort of remaining.
Well, the nano-coated iMacs and the iMac Pros have been off the website for a while now.
They're paring it down. The iMac Pro was a great device. In fact, we have one here in the office.
We use one still.
That being said, though, I think what we're in store for is a 2-tiered iMac system, kind of like what we have on the MacBooks, right? Where we have the standard 24-inch iMac with all the colors, and it's much more meant for lighter use. And then you'll have the Pro, which is going to have the same rough specs from the newer MacBook Pros with the mini LED display, but also the upgraded specs, right? I think we're very much going to see a larger iMac that has the more pro features that I think a lot of us really could use.
What I think they're gonna do is get away from 3 versions of the iMac. So
they did it.
The way it was they had the iMac,
Yep.
which came in 24 or 27. Then the 27, you could get a fairly powerful 27-inch.
Yeah.
But then you had the Pro, which was
a 1-year only thing, to be fair. They made the iMac Pro for a number of years, but they never updated.
They
it was
really
always the same spec.
The Pro, the iMac Pro was really only a stopgap for the Mac Pro.
Yeah. What we will be getting is the new displays. So very similar to what you get on the new 14 and 16-inch MacBook Pros, 120 hertz, mini LED, all that kind of fun stuff. I think you'll also have probably the exact same chip. So the M1 Pro and the M1 Max, which is plenty of power in a 14-inch laptop, and will also be plenty of power in a 27/30-inch desktop machine.
So I think it's going to be 30.5 inches. because that's what they love to do. They
Oh,
love
so
to
you think that there's going to be the same chassis as the existing iMac,
no,
just with no bezels?
I think it's gonna be the same physical footprint. Because here's the thing, like with a lot of these iMacs, one, I think they have to release now a, I guess, entry level cinema display.
Oh, there's
because-
been a lot of rumors. Yeah.
They like that's one thing that people have wanted forever is a companion to the iMac,
Yeah.
which that used to be perfect for the cinema display. But I mean, how many people are going to actually get the what is it, XQD whatever?
Oh, the XDR display is $5,000 with the $1,000 stand.
No one's
yes.
going to buy that.
Yeah. Now, another device that has not seen an update in many a moon is the Mac Mini. So the Mac Mini has always had a really special place in my heart because it is actually surprisingly bang for the buck, especially when you consider it's running Mac OS out of the box, right? They were
We
actually
are
really
currently
solid.
using a Mac Mini to run this set right now.
Absolutely. Like,
because they're really versatile. Like
I spent a
had
whole
MacBook
year
Air.
editing on an
like,
M1, yeah.
They're great.
So right now, the M1 Mac Mini exists. The thing is, though, it's a very old design because the 2018 was basically the same as I think like 2013 or 2014. It's been around for a long time. So not only I think it's a no-brainer to get like an M2 chip or whatever they decide to put in the new iMacs and whatnot, I think there's room for a more pro version of the Mac Mini with M1 Pro, M1 Max chips, because you think about it, the Mac Mini chassis, even though I think it needs a redesign, is not that different than something like a 14-inch MacBook. And if this can cool it, there's no reason why a Mac Mini couldn't. I wouldn't be surprised if the new Mac Mini looks fairly similar. In fact, they may just reuse the chassis, but it is a very old design, and they could probably tweak it with some more modern sort of design language and maybe give us a couple more Thunderbolt ports around the back. All the things we talked about today are very likely to land soon, you know, February, March, maybe April, but like in the next couple of months at the spring Apple event, which really leaves the Mac Pro probably for WWDC in like June-ish for the announcement of the final sort of goodbye Intel Hello Apple Silicon device. There have been a lot of rumors about the Mac Pro because the Mac Pro was an all-new design in 2019. It had, you know, a terabyte and a half of RAM and all kinds of crazy nonsense.
I want to defend the Mac Pro for a second
Sure, go
because
for it.
so many people like, it's too expensive. Who's going to buy this? Blah, blah. It is not for you. I guarantee if you're watching this channel, it's not for you. It's meant for like a large recording studio or like a large render farm. It's not meant.
Yeah.
You know, like it's one thing to see a lot of YouTubers who like, oh yeah, I bought one, you know, I'm using it at home.
Sure.
It's not meant for that.
Yeah, I think that there's real license for them to go one of two ways, or maybe both, right? So they had the existing design with all their custom PCI slots with the additional little like sort of slots and all this kind of stuff, right? They could easily just take out the Intel CPU, load up one of these M1 Max chips, which apparently could be 2 or 4 M1 Max chips glued together, which would probably be about this big. That seems very likely that will be on whatever the Mac Pro looks like.
We're not going to see like the equivalent of like a Xeon processor here.
So
like,
what happened with, if you look at the existing chips that you could buy, the M1, the M1 Pro, and the M1 Max, they've already sort of set the precedent that going from their consumer to their sort of more professional chips, they're just basically just copy pasting things. I am massively oversimplifying. I know that the Apple engineers don't just copy paste, but the rumors sort of state that they're going to keep doing this.
if they're going to put this all on a single chip like that.
Yeah.
Or
It won't actually be on one chip, to be clear. There's no way that they can make a
Yeah.
physical chip that big. Like what's inside the existing Max
but
is
if
a
the way
huge
they
chip.
market it, because if they market it as the Ultra, is that something that we can expect in like if they ever do another iMac Pro of like you get like the M1 Max or you get the M1 Ultra in the iMac, or do you think that however they do the Mac Pro is going to be dedicated to the Mac Pro like it used to be with the Xeon processor?
I think it will, for one big reason. So if you look at a M1 Max chip, this is a chip which, if you give it the proper cooling and the proper power, can pull a lot of power. You load up 4 of these in a system, you're going to be needing some serious cooling. You could probably make it work in something like an iMac, but I think it makes sense for this to be more of a Mac Pro dedicated thing. There's no way that they can make a physical chip that big, or at least I don't believe that that's going to be possible. So you're probably going to have 4 of these things, whether they're like all glued together or whether they're all on one board. And of course, if you imagine if you're doing multiple of these, you could have 2 or 3 or 4. Likely it'd be 2
Well,
or
it's
4
like
of
the
these
way
things.
they used to do the Mac Pros was just
Yep.
2 Xeon processors.
Exactly. Yep.
It doesn't matter how they do it. If
Yeah.
they market it as the chip, you know, they could be adding as many of these physical things on here, but as soon as they call it the,
Yes.
it's something that like
The
I feel
Ultra
like
will
there's
come
an
in like 2 configurations,
Yeah.
right? The 2X and the 4X configuration, which will have 20 cores or 40 cores and 64 or 128 cores on the graphics side, right? I think that makes
so
sense.
all of what you're saying here is
Yeah.
is why I think they're going to keep it in a somewhat similar chassis, if not the exact same chassis that they currently have.
They certainly could.
It's because like they need the space for a beefier power supply.
Yeah.
You know, this is for Hollywood producers. It's for,
Ted Lasso season 3, made exclusively on the new Mac Pro.
Right. That's who it's for. And as soon as people realize that, they can stop being like,
Yeah.
oh, it's too expensive for me.
So
of course it is.
my guess is they're going to do one of two things, maybe both. They'll either put this super power chip inside the existing chassis and call it a day, or they will create a smaller version of it, still with some PCI slots, but maybe not quite as many because you won't be using those for graphics cards since Apple Silicon does not support external graphics cards. One of those two, or maybe both, I think is what I expect. But there's been a lot of rumors that they're making a smaller version of the Mac Pro, which makes me think that there at least will be an option. If not, it will outright replace the existing tower with maybe 4 PCI slots or something.
What do you think is going to be, what are you most excited for the next Apple event? Do you think there's going to be a new iMac? Do you think there's going to be a new Mac Pro? Like and follow and subscribe.
You can't
and ring
follow
the
on YouTube.
notifica-
What are you talking about, Matt?
We can follow other places. We have other links in the description.
Oh, okay. Follow those links then.